John Cena is a famous pro wrestler, he's a movie star, and he's well known for being an all-round funny guy. Could that also be why he's a successful language learner?
你好，我是 John Cena, WWE 明星。
So John Cena speaks Mandarin Chinese, and he has a talent that we can all learn from that allows him to give speeches, interviews, and pretty much anything you can throw at him, all in a second language. Now pay close attention because there's a lot to learn from him, including a special flashcard technique that we should all be using.
我明白中国新年开始1月28日。
Okay, let's be real, no one expects a giant wrestler from Massachusetts to break out in Mandarin Chinese, right? But as you can see here, that's exactly what John Cena did. And I mean, he did it in front of millions of people. Jaws dropped everywhere, the earth stopped spinning. It's pretty badass if you ask me. So what's his story? Well, it all started like this.
I've always wanted to learn a language, but was never any good at it. And finally, a couple years ago, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna try to do it. And I've always been fascinated with China. So I learned Mandarin, or Chinese, as you know it.
Hold on. There's a little more to it than that. Let's rewind. WWE had actually been wanting to expand into China, but it wasn't easy. And John Cena knew why.
WWE has really never been able to penetrate China. And they just don't understand it. They think it's a kung fu expedition. They don't know if it's real. It's the one place in the world that kind of doesn't understand. We're everywhere else but China.
Okay, that makes sense. If Cena could be a star in China, just think how massive their audience could get. So WWE sends him to China for some promotional events, and at first he's just trying to bridge the gap, right? But next thing you know, he's madly in love with the country.
And I got to go there 8 years ago. And I looked around, I was like, whoa, this place is awesome.
Yeah, I agree, it's awesome. And he saw a golden opportunity. He figured if he could connect with Chinese fans in their own language, it would be a game changer. So how do you do that?
所以现在我学习很多时间，我学习中国很多次，可能我学习四个年。
Ever heard John Cena speak like this? He just dove headfirst into Mandarin, and when Chinese people heard him...
And now when I go to China, I speak Chinese. And Chinese people are like, you speak Chinese? And I say, yes. 是帮水吗？
啊？你会说中文？
Pretty fun, but I don't know if you've heard the news. Learning Mandarin is not exactly a walk in the park, and we're going to crack open his talent in just a bit. By the way, in case you don't know me, my name is Olly Richards. I'm a linguist and an author. I've written a bunch of books to help people learn languages, including Mandarin Chinese on the way. Shh. Believe me when I say, I know the struggle is real. So what do you want to know first? How Cena learned Chinese, or how good he is?
Where you're learning how to speak Mandarin.
Yeah, correct.
In your spare time. But you were so busy.
But man, you can like...
Rosetta Stone?
No, I got a tutor, we talk, and...
Really?
Yeah.
Mandarin's tough.
Yes, it is.
I got a Rosetta Stone. I couldn't even get past the first hour.
Why does everyone always think it's Rosetta Stone? Actually, it was through a free WWE program. They paid for him to get fluent in Mandarin.
Fluent is a stretch.
Okay.
I'm better than I was yesterday. And I've been taking Mandarin for 10 to 12 years now. WWE did not have to do this. They will assist in paying for your secondary education, and they will give you a free language program. So on my time off, I took advantage of the program, had a tutor come to the house, and just started from there.
Okay, but Mandarin is one of the hardest languages on the planet, and the trusty FSI charts will tell you we're talking category 5 hard. So how did John Cena go from barely knowing a word to giving speeches in Chinese? Yeah, speeches. Keep watching. Well, he didn't just wing it, he had a game plan. First, he got himself a private tutor who came over for 2 hours a day. That's what WWE's money was for. And I'm quite impressed with how he really threw himself into the language. TV shows, podcasts, the works. He even lived in China for 5 months. It's all about immersion, right? And Cena is all about those flashcards too.
I actually like to just keep my mind going. I'm learning a second language. I try to study Mandarin. If I can, that takes about 35 to 45 minutes at a whack, maybe an hour.
He's mentioned that he used flashcards a lot to build up his vocabulary, old school, but super effective, especially when there are 3,000 Chinese characters to learn. And he still uses them now. He says when it's time to relax in the evening, he always puts his flashcards first before he gets lazy on Instagram. That's an excellent chill time rule to give yourself, by the way. First flashcards, then the rest. Next thing, he could do this.
你好，我是 John Cena. 他是我的朋友 Jimmy Fallon。Jimmy Fallon 工作是主持人的在电视节目名字 The Tonight Show。你不看到我？
But did it sound right? Here's a hint.
看到我？
So there's One tiny problem with Mandarin Chinese, learning it is not just about memorizing words. It has sounds that don't exist in English, and they are really tough to mimic. And the way he sounds here, well, let's just say when he started putting himself out there on Weibo, which is basically the Chinese Twitter, it was a pretty bold move. No wonder Chinese people made that hilarious John Cena meme. Just to make this interesting, I'm just going to bring in some of Cena's friends to help out. Where did they go now?
Ice cream.
But first, there's a certain viral video that Cena will never live down.
早上好，中国！现在我有冰淇淋，我很喜欢冰淇淋，但是速度与激情就比冰淇淋。速度与激情就我最喜欢。
All right, let's talk about this, shall we? So there was John Cena, all serious, trying to show off his Mandarin, when all of a sudden he starts talking about ice cream.
差不多一样，冰淇淋再见。
Not quite sure what he was going for, but hey, we've all been there. So what's going on? Well, if you haven't seen it, Cena has practically changed the way that Chinese people pronounce their own word for ice cream.
Ice cream? 早上好，中国！现在我有冰淇淋，我喜欢冰淇淋。
He was trying to say, I like ice cream very much, but Fast and Furious 9, the film, is better than ice cream. But all anyone heard was the funny way he pronounced ice cream.
冰淇淋。
And overnight, it was a meme in China, Japan, and Singapore. And now they're all saying it that way on purpose, which may or may not have been a good thing. But let's start with his accent.
You want the Chinese version? I'll give you that too. 我要金要带，我是冠军，我永远不放弃。
So the first thing that jumps out at me is that he sounds American. His American accent is strong. There's no two ways about it. In the ice cream video, he pronounces the consonant of qi like the English ch instead of the t sound in Mandarin.
冰淇淋。
But the bigger problem is his tones. Well, his tones are all over the place.
Where you learn Chinese?
再看一次，对42派公司，
什么？
42派公司。
死人安排公司？
Yes, private security.
See that? Movie or no movie, he just said he learned Mandarin at a funeral parlor. So he kind of botches his tones, and these are important in Chinese. Just so you know, there are 4 main tones and a neutral one, and just one wrong pitch in your voice can change the meaning of an entire word. Like, imagine you wanted to say you're excited about wrestling, but accidentally said you're excited about dumplings. It's that kind of thing. And when you watch his public apology to China in a second, you're going to see why it matters so much. Yeah, he apologized to an entire country, but for some reason it made a lot of people crazy. See, story is, Cena got in big trouble for saying that Taiwan is a country. He said sorry, and well, we'll see if they forgave him or not.
你好，中国，这是叫西娜。我必须说，现在，在《速度与激情》中，我做很多采访，很多，所以在一个采访，我有一个错误。
Okay, first of all, very brave to apologize in the same language you made the mistake in, but here's where his Mandarin goes a little bit wonky. See, first, in Chinese, you don't say things like, hello China. That's an English way of expressing it, but they wouldn't say it this way. He's pretty much translating directly from English, so you can see what's going on. Thought in English, and then words come out in Mandarin, but with the English thoughts. It's a classic tendency of a beginner language learner before they've spent too much time actually in the language. Same thing when he keeps repeating so.
我有一个错误，我必须说，现在就是很重要。
So we speak like that, we repeat words for emphasis, but you don't do that in Chinese. But his tones, well, instead of using the right Mandarin tones, he follows an English pitch pattern. So guess what he really said?
必须说，现在就是很重要。
So he should have used the falling rising tone. I mean, I'm pretty sure Chinese people know what he meant, but do they still like him? By the way, if you find my language stories fun to watch and you'd like to try learning a new language like Mandarin yourself, you might enjoy the unique way we teach languages here at Story Learning. See, we're all about learning languages in the most natural way possible. And I actually designed a really fun and effective method that takes you on a journey where you pick up the language through stories. Remember when you were a kid and you loved reading and hearing stories? Well, those stories were supercharging your brain's memory without you even realizing it. The best part is that your adult brain still wants to learn languages this way. It really is a different method to what you're used to. We have 15 languages to choose from at Story Learning. So if it sounds intriguing, you'd like to give it a go, you can get a totally free peek inside the method. It's all inside my Story Learning kit. Just click the link in the description below. There's also a QR code on the screen that you can scan if you prefer to do that kind of thing and enjoy the fun tour. Okay, there's another big scary guy waiting for his entrance, but first I have a big question. Are you ready? If John Cena's tones are so bad and his accent is so horrible, why is he still so maddeningly good at Mandarin Chinese? Is there some magic thing we all need to know here? Well, keep watching for the clues. Meanwhile, in the WWE fighting ring, that's right, Shinsuke Nakamura is in the house. Hilarious. Don't you just love this guy? See, Nakamura's story is a bit different from Cena's. At first, he started off in Japanese wrestling because, well, he's Japanese, and when he joined WWE, he knew very, very little English.
Can you give me an answer why you attacked AJ Styles?
Sorry, no speak English.
What's going on here? Because last I heard, you can't really be a WWE star if you can't speak English at all. It just won't work. There's all this wrestling jargon to know.
It's like a kind of, so being evil is kind of little bit like, not a little bit, like one of the real things from myself.
Okay, he's clearly struggling a little bit here, but he's the king of strong style. Does his English get better? Well, let's just say when he's actually fighting, WWE decided to only give him one-liners in English. Does it work? You tell me.
I'm still alive. I'm here. The strong style. Never die.
Now, in Nakamura's story, his junior high school taught English, but the problem was the teachers spoke Japanese and they weren't much good at English. This is a story from my past that I can relate to. But just like Cena with Mandarin, he worked so hard to be able to understand English, not just for wrestling, but to be able to communicate with his fans.
Maybe most Japanese think about John Cena as typical American wrestler. And so some people, oh, he can wrestle. I don't think so.
Wow. So clearly his English is getting better and better, but at this stage, do we want him to be perfect and lose the accent while he's at it?
Ask him. My word is gonna stay in his head until next week.
He's so cool just like this. Maybe he should stop the English lessons altogether. As one fan put it, his body language and facial expressions do enough to tell the story. Well, he might get away with more than John Cena does, but they definitely have something in common. Before we dive into just how good Cena actually is, there's another gigantic legend with a funny accent at the door.
I thought that people are too lazy maybe to go to an ice stand somewhere around the corner. They just like to lie there. And I just walked all over the place and screamed, ice cream. You know, and your accent is crazy. So, I mean, they found all those faults that they thought were faults. And they just said, I would never make it.
So Arnie's accent is almost as famous as his muscles. When he first landed in Hollywood, people were like, what's with the accent? And they made jokes about it.
Boy, you talk funny.
Well, that's easy for you to say.
He had to take a heck of a lot of criticism and ridicule. Sometimes they even dubbed over his voice, which is kind of insulting. So why do you think he still speaks English like an Austrian?
I have a headache.
It might be a tumor.
It's not a tumor. It's not a tumor at all.
So in his biography, Schwarzenegger tells the story of how he struggled to learn English and to reduce his accent.
I did not really have that talent, you know, so even though I had an English coach and an acting coach and a speech coach and an accent removal coach. Wow. You know, I should have otherwise gotten my money back. Because I worked on it, you know. I remember that when he says, you know, you always say three. It's not three, it is three with TH. Yeah. So it was very helpful, but it didn't get rid of my accent. Right?
Funny guy. Well, ever since he arrived in LA at age 21, he's been taking English classes, and he made a point of surrounding himself with native English speakers. He even had a rule to only date American women. So fast forward to the present time, and Schwarzenegger is the biggest Hollywood action hero of all time, governor of California, for goodness sake, and he even speaks perfect English now. So why is his accent still so bad? Well, I'll tell you, because one day he just said, screw it, and started completely ignoring all judgment. And look at him now.
They were saying that this is an obstacle for me to become a leading man, became an asset. Then when they did Terminator, Jim Cameron said what made Terminator work and why it became successful was because Schwarzenegger talks like a machine.
And there's the twist. His accent became his trademark. Kind of like Nakamura then. You see, which brings us back to John Cena. What makes his bad Chinese so good?
这个录像非常好，因为大黄蜂很 popular 的 transform， 很多人认为大黄蜂的 character 很有意思。
This is great. In my book, he gets an A+, and I'll tell you why. First off, despite all the hiccups, his Mandarin isn't just okay, it's actually pretty impressive. This guy's vocabulary is great, he can speak quite fast, and in certain interviews, you can hear he is speaking off the cuff.
我认为我的角色很有意思，因为他们会看到这个电影。
Grammar mistakes or not, there's more to it than that. He uses cultural references, idiomatic expressions. It shows that he's really getting into the heart of the language, even if he is still being weird with food.
我不知道关于老公嘛，
但是中国人说这是非常好的 chili sauce， 所以现在每天我用老干妈。
That chili is a national delicacy. But look, now I can tell you what I left out about the Bing Chilling song.
2个礼拜以后，速度与激情就
His lyrics rhyme. Yeah, you try making rhymes in a new language. See how you get on. But the absolute best part of all this is that, in case it wasn't obvious from the start, John Cena was brave enough to do something that 99% of us would never dream of doing, even in our native tongue.
WWE 生意更爆曝光路的在中国，以前不大，我认为这是坏事。因为很多人都在传说最喜欢 WWE.
He gave an entire speech in Mandarin to promote WWE in Shanghai. So he's not afraid to speak, even when he knows it's not going to come out perfectly. And that is what makes him so impressive at Mandarin. People who learn to park fears of judgment about their accent and actually just let the language flow from within them generally do so much better in language learning because they end up communicating so much more. Whereas fear of accent, fear of judgment shuts you down, stops you communicating, and grinds your process to a halt. So we're not going to worry about Cena's American accent anymore, or Schwarzenegger's Austrian accent, or your... Well, what accent do you have? Don't worry. Go turn your accent into a superpower. But here's something interesting. After all that effort, you might wonder, do Chinese people actually like John Cena?
To 2 weeks, the Fast and Furious 9.
Okay, I hate to break it to you, but Cena didn't actually achieve everything that WWE hoped for in China. But what he did gain was a huge fan base, and they even gave him his playful nickname.
John Cena.
Proof that they appreciate his efforts. After all, it's not about being perfect. It's about showing up and trying your best, which is pretty much what Wonder Woman does every day. Now, there's a lady with muscles and an accent.
I don't want to be Bob Sponge.
Bob Sponge?
SpongeBob.
Bob Sponge? I don't want to be Bob Sponge.
Did you know that Wonder Woman, Gal Gadot, is originally from Israel and her first language is Hebrew? That's right, and she had to master English to take on Hollywood. She told GQ, I fought my accent for so long, like, I gotta sound more American. I was a little bit shy about it until I let it go. My coach told me, just own your accent. And guess what sharpened her superpowers? That's right, she watched the sitcom Friends, and she's not the only one. It's crazy, but learning English through Friends seems to be a bit of an epidemic, and you can see why that is and how it helps you learn languages right here.